This truck starter rotor in front of us has stopped functioning properly due to its old age. In many countries, such a part would likely be sent to a scrapyard. However, since most trucks in Pakistan rely on imported parts, finding original replacements is difficult. So, the owner brought it to this specialized repair shop to see if it could be fixed. After inspecting it, the craftsman said it's no big deal and could be fully restored for just 2,000 rupees. Before beginning the repair, the rotor needs to be heated in a fire to burn off the grease and welding residue on its surface, which will make it easier to disassemble the commutator. Once the commutator is removed, the copper strips inside, which will be reused, are also taken out. The craftsman straightens the copper strips to facilitate their removal. It's clear that oxidation on the copper strips is severe, which is one of the reasons the rotor has failed to start. After removing all the copper strips, they undergo annealing to remove oxidation and impurities. To ensure the copper strips are perfectly smooth, they are soaked in hydrogen peroxide. Meanwhile, the craftsman begins grinding the rotor, meticulously removing the oxidation layer to make the surface smooth and even, a crucial step for ensuring the motor functions properly. Since the old insulation plates are damaged, the craftsman also handcrafts new ones using silicon steel sheets as templates, shaping them carefully to meet the required specifications. Each insulation plate must meet the standard, and the next step is to cut the insulation paper. This is a key part of the repair process that showcases the craftsman's skill. Every groove on the silicon steel sheet needs to have a perfectly folded piece of insulation paper to ensure proper isolation during installation. Once the insulation paper is in place, the copper strips that have been soaking in hydrogen peroxide are cleaned and ready. Their original color has been restored. Since the copper strips were deformed during removal, the craftsman must now realign them to fit back into the notches properly. After realigning, they are reinstalled. Throughout this process, the copper strips must pass through the protective insulation layer, and the craftsman ensures that there are no gaps between the copper strips and the insulation paper, securing each strip firmly in place to guarantee the long-term stability of the rotor. Once the copper strips are installed, the craftsman uses pliers to adjust the silver corners precisely to fit the commutator. After realigning the copper strips, the polished commutator is reinstalled into its original position. The craftsman gently taps it with a small hammer to make sure it is perfectly seated. He then secures the silver corners of the copper strips into the slots, as the starter motor will be subjected to intense vibrations during operation, making this step crucial for ensuring the copper strips are firmly in place. To ensure the installation is correct, the craftsman performs a circuit test. Only after passing the test does he proceed to weld the silver corners. Due to the lack of modern equipment, the craftsman uses a heated iron rod instead of a soldering iron for welding. Each weld port must be strong enough to handle the high current and vibrations the starter motor will face in harsh conditions. Once the welding is complete, the craftsman mounts the rotor on the lathe and uses a lathe tool to smooth the rotor's surface. This step not only removes any unevenness caused during welding, but also ensures the commutator's surface is polished and smooth, guaranteeing the rotor will run smoothly. And with that, the damaged starter rotor has been fully restored to its original condition. What do you think of the Pakistani craftsman's skills? If you had to rate them out of 10, how many points would you give?
Yeah.